Alright, so one of the most important videos for the Lana Home is how we are sending data to Cayenne. So we've already seen a lot of the channels that we've been working with. We've seen how to add new channels, how to add them into code, how to submit analog sensor data. We've seen how to implement digital indicators, control digital signals, analog control signals, PWM signals. So now we're going to go into how we even get the data to Cayenne. So if you notice here, if I automatically change this value won't automatically change, and that's because if we did that, then we would be sending too much information all at once and it would be too quick. So now it's changed, but let us show you an example. So if I increase, notice that our set point temperature doesn't really read quickly enough or immediately. I mean, it was quite fast, but typically it takes a couple of seconds. So increase that, 75, right? So now we are 2 degrees above our hot, which means we should expect, oh, I wonder if we've changed it to motion. So since we are 2 degrees above our set point, if you notice, the air vent closed and our cold indicator turned on, meaning it is too cold in here, because as you can see, the Fahrenheit reading is 2 degrees below the set point. But notice how long it took, right? So let us go into that. This might be a little bit longer of a video, but just bear with us. What we're doing here is Cayenne requires a certain format when we're submitting data, and we've seen that in previous videos. If I go ahead and show us another example, actually let's just go from here. So if we go to File, Examples, Sensors, right, we have Cayenne virtual write, and we have basically this statement, its channel, its value, and 2 other strings that go along with its units. But since it's already in humidity, it kind of already understands this. But let us go into how. Now we're just gonna show you a snippet of how this works. So notice, Cayenne virtual write, we need our channel, which is the array channel ID. We need our data, which is what values we're sending. We need a sensor type, meaning what kind of sensor are we communicating with? Is this a motion sensor? Is this a moisture sensor? Is this a light value? Is this a pressure value? And then the unit, which is Fahrenheit, Celsius, hectopascals. So that is all you need to do to send a correct data to a specific channel on here. So let us just look at this. So door lock 10, right? So no, I'm sorry. So let's look at something that we send to. So these are all control values. These are values that get information from the launch pad. So all of these indicators have their own special channel. So channel 1, right? Oops. So you can see here channel 1, right? So we have channel 1, channel 20, channel 21, 2. So channel 1, channel 20, 22, 23, 21. Air vent is 24. So notice how those are still here. They're just kind of in a different format. But we're going to talk about this, and we're going to get into good detail so that you understand how we're sending this. So first thing to know is, are you familiar with struct data types? So essentially we have, in these cases, like this object is a float data type. I'm sorry if you're already familiar with struct variables, but I'm just going to go into it for quite some bit just so that you can get a better understanding. This object window position variable is of an int data type, but if we wanted to make, say, say we wanted to make our own data type that had a bunch of integers being stored in one data type. So what do I mean by this? So if we define a struct variable, that means we can create our own data type called channel that can contain 4 integer types or 4 integer objects. So it is very useful to go to your software documentation and read up on structure variables. And if you go down, there is a great summary about how this struct operates. So go ahead and look at that, and it's good. It's a good source of information. But here we contain a channel ID, data, sensor, and unit. Now this is no different than what we discussed earlier. So chi-add virtual write, we need a channel, we need data, we need a sensor type, and we need a unit. And that is what's required in order to communicate with the channel. So let me just double check. We're still recording. Okay, cool. So what we're doing here is we are making an array that can contain all the channels that we want to communicate with on the dashboard. So here, let us go into an example. Say we wanted to so say we are doing a motion simulator. Okay, so here you can see motion came on. So what we're doing here is, let's go into the Cayenne channels. Let's go to simulate motion. Okay, so here we increase the PWM to its max, then we decrease it to its minimum, increase it to its max, decrease it to its minimum. Hey, let's just read the motion PIR pin. What is the signal on there? We get that value and we store it into this. We call this function called data publish, and we store that into its array. So notice here, this is the channel that we're communicating with, channel 20. This is the value that's being sent, and now these 0 and 0 correspond to the sensor type and the unit type. And let us just slowly go into this format. So if we remember, functions are called, this is a function called data publish. So if you go to data storage, notice that the function is here, data publish. It takes in 4 integer variables, int id num, int value, int sensor type, and int unit type. So here 20 passes through as the ID number. So now ID number is 20. Motion is the state, 0 or 1. So motion is now the value, and then so on and so forth. 0 and 0 correspond to the sensor type and the unit type, 0 and 0. So what happens here? Well, if you notice, ID num 20, and also this ID number 20. So now we're in the 20th element of this array, and we're storing it into the ID. And as we notice back here, this our channel 51 can have up to 51 elements, and each of them has an ID. Each of them has data type, sensor type, and unit type. So every time we add new channels, we are also updating the elements in this array called array channel. So the value gets stored as the data, the sensor type gets stored as the sensor T. So see how they're related? So every time we press a data publish and we put these 4 things to the function, it is like we are saying, I wonder where I put that. Oh, it was here. Cayenne it is like we are adding the channel, the data, sensor type, and the unit. So that's kind of the same thing. All we did was just make it into a fancier way of publishing it. So before we would actually write cayenne virtual write. The problem with this, Chan, the problem with this was that we were sending too much information at a time, and what we needed to do was update locally and then submit it every 5 seconds. And that's how we determined here in the very beginning was every 5 seconds we go to publishing, which is this function here, and we only publish the first set of channels, and then we toggle this pointer, so it's just pointing to this first set and this second set. So if pointer is 0 or if pointer is 1, and we're always alternating, this is the toggle, so it toggles between a 0 and 1. So we either send these 5 channels information or these 5 channels information. So that's how it operates. Now please go into how we use this struct variable and array to update the data. But that is essentially how we are submitting data to Cayenne. Thank you.